All right, and we are up into the round of 8 of this week's Netolic Raidcall Weekly America's Open Cup tournament. And we sort of see the team that we were just watching just now and last week's defending champion, Isurus Gaming, South American, I think, going up against Stand Gaming, who I'm not sure where they're from. I think they're actually North American, but don't quote me on that. So, round of 8, basically the structure of this tournament will be we'll watch one more game tonight. This is going to be the last best of 1. And then on Friday, we'll see the semifinals, which are best of 3. And then the grand finals always occur on Sunday night, best of 3 as well. And so Isurus Gaming, we'll see if they're sort of can plow through one more team and get to that sort of stage where, they can defend their title. What we've seen over the last 2 weeks is that the team that wins the previous week has made it to the finals, only to be dethroned by sort of the new challenger that appears, so to speak. So, No Fire Wisp Bottom, the North American team that won in week 2, then fell to Ice Gaming in week 3, which we watched 2 Sundays ago. And then, of course, the week after that, week 4, Ice Gaming fell to Isurus Gaming in the grand final. So we'll see if Isurus Gaming loses to someone else in the grand final this week. And that entire spiel just made me feel like I was doing the Dave Cross pre-taped call-in show. But we're starting the draft, so I'm going to get my codecaster in here.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Netolic.tv presentation. You got the game between Stand and Serious Time Blaze. I also got Mike on here. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing? I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, doing really well myself. I mean, that last one was just mind-boggling. It was so back and forth and very, very interesting decisions put out in that specifically. But Isurus was able to come out on top compared to Netolic, and it was very, very well fought for them. The Anti-Mage, of course, carrying them to victory, and we'll see if it can do it again or what they're going to have in store for us in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some games, you watch and you enjoy it because it's very, very perfect coordination from both teams, and it's like no mistakes are made, and it's sort of a clash of the titans. And some games are just scrappy, right? Like stuff just happens, people die, there's big plays sometimes, there's very, very small plays other times. And I would say that last game was very, very exciting, and definitely more towards that latter form of exciting than the former form of exciting.
Yeah, it's like one of those just kind of like down in the dirt football games. Just all getting
exactly
messy, making some mistakes, not doing anything particularly perfect, but it's still enjoyable. It's back and forth, and it makes for something to watch, most certainly. So that's pretty cool. And we're seeing another opportunity for Isurus to show their contemplativeness when it comes down to the ban phase. They are aiding in once again into their reserve time, now sitting on 30 seconds here, and we have yet to see anything come out of them. If they're looking for the no ban strat, that's definitely what they're closing in on here.
Yeah, wow. Again, we sort of see this. This is actually the second time that Isurus have taken a very, very long time to select one of their first 2 bans, which is interesting. I wonder if they're sort of trying out new ban strategies or sort of discussing them.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, there's really only so much to work with here. I definitely think that as far as ban material, unless you really, really know the team, there's only going to be 6 to 7 different heroes that you're going to ban out. Yeah. So it just comes down to they have first pick. They are trying to decide what they want to play, what kind of style that they want to bring to the table in this round here specifically. And obviously the bans have to allow for that and work with that. So that's pretty much what you're seeing there. But the Bat Rider taken out as well as the Nyx, and we'll see if Isurus, I mean, they only have about 50 seconds now at this point.
I mean, it's interesting. I really thought that it might have bit them last game because I was a little worried about their anti-mage pick just in terms of it seemed like they didn't have a lot of time to react to the silencer and they sort of just snap picked it up because, I mean, honestly, they were down to like 10 seconds to actually make a decision after they saw the silencer. But we'll see if that actually is a problem for them or if they're just okay spending their time in the first ban phase and then just shotgunning their picks after that. Because, I mean, it did work out in the end.
Yep, speed draft it is, but I'm not sure. I'm curious to see here if they actually had the Luna nuke magic damage oriented build in mind when we saw this coming, or was that just kind of a responsive thing to all the Ghost Scepters and the fact that AM pretty much had the physical DPS covered?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if that was their sort of pocket strat or if they were just like, all right, deploy the magic Luna.
Nice. That's a good way to put it. But we do see Darkseer taking out the AoE initiation control of that Vacuum and Wall of Replica was something that they had a little bit of difficulty dealing with here and there. And although Rubik was able to stay on top of it for the most part, it is something that if you can avoid it, if you can get some free farm on your anti-mage that's solo without having to fight across like just spike balls all over the place and just a minefield of them, then it would be preferable there to make sure that they can guarantee some farm, whichever strategy they end up running. But Stand Gaming going for an interesting ban. The Rubik taken off the board. Isurus, most games, has actually run this Rubik, and to great effect in my mind. Occasionally stealing only things like flat cannons, but in general, adding in a lot, using the telekinesis to disengage appropriately. They kind of run them as a Shadow Demon when it comes to fights, and then adding in, of course, the spell steal just to supplement in any other facet.
It's a good point, especially with the telekinesis, as sort of we saw in last game. Sometimes those telekinesis really can decide a game, because you could basically get a dual stun with it, where you stun the person that you're targeting and then stun up to 3-4 other people with the landing. So if you're pristine in terms of how you actually land that telekinesis, you can completely turn a team fight with that, and it's not even an ultimate.
Absolutely. So that's, I mean, a really, really powerful cooldown. But speaking of, Keeper Light has that Illuminate available, a lot of potential lane control. I generally think of Keeper Light as an opportunity, just an open doorway to the late game.
Sure.
Starting off the Illuminate to give the carry breathing room, the Recall to make sure that you can either farm aggressively and then always be able to ready to rumble by being put into the middle of the fray at a moment's notice, or just buy back and late game jumping back on into it. So a lot of different ways to make it work, but they are going to have to fight up pretty difficultly against a Magnus and a Shadow Demon.
So the Shadow Demon, absolutely critical pick. They could not take that Shadow Demon, because, let's note, Darkseer is out, PL is in. So if they hadn't taken that Shadow Demon, Stand Gaming risked getting way behind just in terms of drafting parity, because then Isurus could take PL and Shadow Demon for their second and third picks, putting Stand really on the back foot. If you can't get a Darkseer or a Shadow Demon, your options for dealing with that PL constrict substantially. You have to go for something really exotic, like, you can try to go over the top of him with a PL, with an anti-mage. You can try to go for a very early ganking lineup, which is sometimes not that successful. You can go for something really wacky, like an OD or a Morphling. But, if you can take tier 1 heroes like Shadow Demon, you want to.
Wisp is back. We don't generally see this in the Netolic Raidcall Dota 2 Weekly Open, but it actually is one of the more powerful picks in the European scene.
Yes.
Specifically more towards Russia and the Eastern Europe. They love to pick up these aggressive hero composition.
And even teams like Fnatic as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. They love global strats in general. Trixie on the Nature's Prophet is insane. But specifically looking at this Wisp and CK combo, if they can make sure that they are stable, moving on around, if they can just get to level 6 through kind of the dual farm of the jungle that Keeper Light's able to do with that Illuminate, they can make sure that they can be very, very active early on with relocate ganks across the board, picking up heroes like Shadow Demon and in some cases Magnus as well.
Absolutely.
The one thing that they're going to be dealing with though is this counter pick of the Disruptor.
Yeah, I love this.
The Glimpse will pretty much just automatically, if he's in the right position, at the right place at the right time, enable them to send back one of the two individuals that are ganking for the relocate and really, really shut down what Isurus has in mind as far as offensive plays.
Exactly. Glimpse is the anti-global tool, other than drafting a global hero of your own to anti-global the globals. If you can teleport, you have a choice. You can TP back the CK for a free kill on the Wisp, or you can TP back the Wisp so that the CK can't possibly escape. Glimpse is just such a strong tool against that Wisp CK. It's one of, in my opinion, the best things you can do, other than just sort of starving them out. Now, the interesting thing is, Coddle Wisp CK, this is a lane that can definitely get kills, but I worry about leveling the Wisp in a timely fashion.
Yeah, that's going to be a little more difficult. They have to be more conservative about the pulls. They don't have the Radiant advantage where you can just mid-pull the lane over and over and have some good farm that way. So I think it is going to have to be where Keeper Light is very dedicated for his stacking and just kind of avoid those mud golems at all possible, because they have to illuminate down the waves over and over and try to make sure that both supports are well supplied in experience. If that does work out for them, they're going to be really, really nice in the laning phase, because one cool thing you can do with Wisp is Tether and Chakra Magic Him. It infuses all that mana, actually 1.5x fold to the individual that he's tethered to, making sure that you have unlimited mana essentially coming out from everybody on that lane. So it can be really, really powerful, and making sure that CK can spam out his bolts and try to go for a high roll, hoping for a 4-second one there. And Wisp can use his spirits very, very actively as well.
Yeah, there are two bans in here that I really like, and I want to talk about a bit. I really like this Silencer ban on Isurus, because Silencer is another good response to global strats. If the Wisp and CK come in, and the silencer immediately pops off his ultimate, that CK is going to do almost nothing upon his arrival. He needs that Reality Rift to proc the Wisp stun. He needs the stun off his Chaos Bolt. The other good ban, and I'll talk about this really quickly, is I really like the PL as well, because Isurus did have the option of running dual mid Wisp CK, an offlaner, and PL Keeper of the Light, which would be extremely difficult to deal with for any lineup that Sand Gaming could field. So I like both of those bans, and honestly I like this Storm Spirit pick as well.
Yeah, it just kind of exemplifies their range of initiation. They're picking up the Lifestealer. Kind of thought of that with the Magnus here, with the fact that you can empower him to do a lot of damage, and it can be very, very powerful in its own right. It also allows you to actually stay on target, despite the Storm Spirit, who can slow down with Overload and the Electric Vortex as well as the Tether, but we have a Broodmother pick, and the fact that they have a Keeper of Light makes us a lot more viable, but still Shockwave is a pretty powerful AoE. I'm really, really curious how this is going to work out for them. I know how they're going to lane it. They're going to run Storm Spirit on the mid, with CK, Keeper of Light up top, and Broodmother down to the bottom, but it's something we haven't seen in a long, long time, and I want to see it work, honestly, because she is rare, and she has a lot of potential with split pushing the lane, putting pressure out over time with a ton of overwhelming HP and mana regen.
And look at the lack of really effective anti-push on Stand Gaming. I mean, Shadow Demon is very, very slow to anti-push. Magnus is okay. He's pretty good with the Shockwave. But Lifestealer and Shadow Demon Disruptor really don't have that many tools to kill off those Broodmother things. We actually did see Broodmother, I think TL played her, and it was just amazing. It's the perfect 5th pick. Broodmother is such a 5th pick hero, because you gauge how the draft is going, and if you have that in your back pocket, it can just be incredibly effective.
Exactly. I really like it. The one thing she'll have to worry about longer term is the Empower, but for the moment, that's really not a concern. And as long as you can micro appropriately against the thundering strikes of the Disruptor, you can really, really make this hero work. That's compared to most supports. If you compare that to a Jakiro or a Venomancer or something, that's a lot of AoE that isn't there. I mean, generally speaking, all supports, I mean, Fadebolt from Rubik or whatever, looking at all their bans, the screen, or actually that's the wrong team, but anyways, no, it's just, they really, taking those all off the board, it really, really works out nicely. Absolutely. That Broodmother will be able to put out that pressure here, but we're going to see, as far as a solo mid pickup option, the Warlock here. Now,
so interesting. I do want to quickly say I like the Lifestealer, which I know people watching your stream are probably like, oh, Lifestealer again. But this is, even though Lifestealer is generally a really good hero, I actually really like the pick here, especially after the Storm Spirit, because so much of what you fear from Isurus is magic, especially magic disables and magic slows. Storm Spirit, Chaos Knight, Wisp, Keeper of the Light. Chaos Knight has auto attacks, but really you're scared of just getting locked down by him. And the Lifestealer is so strong against all of those heroes that I think it's a good pickup. Now, what I do find a little weirder is this Warlock pick. So, first off, you think probably Warlock mid, Magnus offlane?
Yeah, I do believe that's the case. The way they drafted it, they banned out the Rubik and they simultaneously picked up the Shadow Demon. There's 2 supports that can knock him out of his skewer, giving Adric a little bit more free roaming period in that position. Along with that, we are also now seeing him pick up that Stout Shield, give him a little bit more durability there, and it could work for them. Their only other alternative is to go for an aggressive tri-lane with the Disruptor, Shadow Demon, and Lifestealer, but TGS just picked up a Stout Shield and a Quelling Blade, which is kind of a farm route. It's making sure that you can guarantee some good last hits in the lane, but you're not going to be able to fight 3v3 with that.
To really just tear people apart, I don't think. They will smoke up. The other thing, I wanted to say, the other reason the Lifestealer is a good pick, they already had Shadow Demon, and Isurus actually banned out the Beastmaster, which meant that they had so much space to take that Lifestealer without him being countered by that Beastmaster.
100%. Yep, that definitely works out for them very nicely. And now picking up a very interesting hero. They're going for the Disruption from Not Excuse, going for Rorgok. He does have that tether. He's going to be able to tether away from this, no problem at all. So actually completely disengaging from this and takes a few hits from that Illuminate. But now they're going to be looking at Masoku, who's in a good position to just poke and prod at them as they unfortunately have to fall back.
I don't think they'll even get a kill from this. The Wisp may not have been the perfect choice there.
It just wasn't, honestly. If they had those 2 options, then they could have gone for the CK. Yeah, he has a lot of base movement speed, but Rorgok always has that tether option as long as he hasn't skilled Spirits at level 1, which is... no.
I mean, I do like the aggressive tri-lane, not because they're going to get a kill, because I don't think they will, but they will be able to get farm in the Lifestealer, and I was actually really worried that they were going to run the Magnus solo hard lane, which isn't always that great of a choice, especially against fairly strong tri-lanes, just because you can get locked down after your skewer or before you can even cast the skewer.
Yeah, and that can get really interesting and really dicey really fast. Now, we do see Magnus going down on the bot lane versus Broodmother 1 versus 1, and in that position there, I think that Broodmother will have, for a good amount of time, some decent advantage. The Shockwave works much the way of in the matchup of Broodmother versus Tidehunter, which we used to see all the time when it was in the push metagame. It was like literally the matchup that Complexity played like 90% of their games, had Hannah Montana going up against 1v1 Brood. But anyways...
when he wasn't busy hiding in the trees against Trilands.
Exactly. So, but in this position here, the Shockwave kind of acts like that Anchor Smash. Just tries to make sure you can do some continuous AoE damage that won't be regen fast enough for the net to take effect. And if you get some Empower on top of that, you can really contest this Brood more directly. But the one thing is Shoko doesn't necessarily need to rely on Spiderlings entirely just to be able to control the lane. What she can do, or he can do, is... go for Soul Ring and just making sure that the spawn Spiderlings every single time is used as a nuke. Every single time is used as a quick damage burst. We do see up on top, though, the Open Wounds does come out on the CK to disengage him off of that Disruptor, who was taking some big hits, but obviously the Bolt wasn't enough for them to lock him down. Illuminate hitting on 2 supports, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think you made a very good point saying early on that, like, they can try to get these kills, but this lifestealer just isn't going to be that impressive. And keep in mind, he doesn't even have Feast yet. Honestly, so I do like the Magnus just because even... I agree with you. The matchup is not tremendously favorable for him against Brood, but it is the least unfavorable anti-Brood matchup they have. Because even I think that Trilane wouldn't have the easiest time picking off that Brood if he's very careful.
Yeah. So that would be very difficult for them. They do have a couple Sentry Wards here and there, but not excuse just using them to control this major position here. We do see Initiation coming on Taylor Swift. He's so low with this disruption. He's defensively put in a position where he can still survive, but not for much longer. A couple right clicks goes away. That's First Blood in the way of Stop the Tears, and now going on Not Excuse. One more right click to finish him off as well. And looking for, they still have the Rally Rift. They still have the stun. So much mana. And Stop the Tears is able to get a 3rd kill on the board.
Wisp,
so
by the skin of her teeth, manages to escape as well. Huge start. 3 kills. Full wipe.
And we already see that Tether taking effect with these clarities. Just look at Chaos Knight's mana just flying up. It shows 4.1, but it actually is adding in a +7 every second or so to that. So it's really powerful, combining those clarities together. And now Chaos Knight is ready to rumble once more. And what does this Lifestealer have to work with? Again, still 1 Tango and a Stout Shield and a Quelling Blade. Just really not where he needs to be if he's going to be trying to contest this lane.
I don't know about this. Maybe trouble for Magnus. I think it's mostly just harassment. I do like this build. I think it was smart for him to take Empower, 1 rank of it, and then just level up Shockwave. That's probably his ideal anti-Broodmother build, so I really like what this Magnus is doing here. Again, it's still not a favorable lane, but he's doing well considering his options, honestly. Storm Spirit does have a slight advantage on Warlock in the middle. I actually think he might expand that further just because, I don't know, Warlock's still no boots. The other thing that confuses me about the Warlock pick is, especially if Broodmother starts joining fights, she can absorb so much of that Fatal Bonds with those spiders. And then if you end up Fatal Bondsing spiders, I guess it does prioritize heroes, so never mind.
I don't think so, actually. I think it would be extremely overpowered if it did prioritize heroes. But, yeah, that's a good point to make. If the Spiderlings are in the fray, I believe it will hit on every single one of them because it is, as far as I recall it, I mean, the mechanic is kind of archaic in my mind. I haven't seen a Warlock a lot, but I think it's proximity-based. The 5 closest targets
it might be. And if so, I mean, those Fatal Bonds, like, the ideal thing with Warlock, right, is to Fatal Bonds everybody, then drop the rock on them. But if you Fatal Bonds everybody and it just hits Spiderlings, the damage that rock deals is actually like way less. You really want the Golem to be hitting Fatal Bonds people who loop onto other Fatal Bonds people.
Absolutely, and have a large amount of health pool to tap on through so that follow-up of AoE damage, the empowered Lifestealer, so on and so forth, can do a lot there. Look like Ifrit will be able to acquire a Regeneration Rune, and now going to try to duel it out with the Warlock. Could be a mistake here. Yeah. Going up on the high ground, it is going to be an uphill miss, and that makes sure that he will be able to survive. Now using this Regen Rune, pulling him in with the Vortex and the Remnant, he should be able to get the kill here. Yeah, one more Remnant will secure it for a really nice turnaround.
Rune. I don't even know if any other rune would have saved him there.
Well, I mean, he didn't have to necessarily go back that direction. He just decided that would be the way that he wanted to go, and now he has Ball Lightning to work with. Has 2/3 of mana bar, bottling back up, and yeah, he has plenty of mobility and pretty much invulnerability while he still has mana to work with.
Absolutely. And Warlock's still only about 20% of the way to his rock, so there's going to be a substantial length of time, which Storm is a big advantage in this lane.
So we'll see how our Deke is going to be able to fare up against all these Spiderlings. Shoko's been stacking them up pretty hardcore, but not sending them out to the jungle just yet. He really just wants to try to control the lane with them specifically, and I don't blame him, but up against this rank 1 in power, that's a decent amount of cleave damage that can actually contest them pretty directly.
20 last hits for Magnus. Like, he's not doing too bad.
Not whatsoever, and the more important thing is the solo experience. He's sitting actually as high as she is, 400. Oh, yeah. Caught out of position here. There.
Oh.
Yeah. Last Spirit going on through, but Rorgok will be right-clicked on down by TGS. He's going to run on out, but Chaos Bolt is available. Pops it off. It is only going to be a 1-second stun, though, and that will mean that he will be able to just shamble on away, no problem.
Lucky. That's that rank 3 Chaos Bolt. It's such a big difference when your minimum is 2 versus when your minimum is 1. That was, by the way, that disruptor almost saved. That was a great defensive disruption there, because that was a 4-second CK stun, which, I mean, I felt confident saying he's dead, and he almost survived just because of the great timing on the defensive disruption. That's really why Shadow Demon is a tier 1 support. That disruption has so much utility, both on offense and defense. It's such a well-rounded ability.
Very powerful, and of course it does have a lot of scalability going on later on stages of the game. We do see Ball Lightning, Ifrit gets to control his next rune, picking up that double damage, moving in towards Treads, allowing him to kind of dance around with those stats, meaning he can be that much more aggressive with his mana pool and manage it more effectively. Warlock does have his Golem down, but he doesn't want to cast it solo on a Storm Spirit. He wants to transition. He wants to maybe go towards the top lane, which, by the way, Taylor Swift on that Disruptor, sitting at level 2. I mean, I know he's almost level 3, but this is almost 7 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
It's really a long time coming to get to a 3rd level, to get even a single point in glimpse.
This is the curse of the aggressive tri-lane, really. If you can't get those kills, it's a gambit. It's a gambit that you make before the game even starts, which is we will get kills, we will be able to dominate this lane, and our supports will get levels. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you have to start thinking, okay, how do we win this game when our supports are going to be consistently a level or 2 behind?
Exactly, and if they get low ranks of Glimpse, I guess they might be okay if the target is the Disruptor himself, but if he's not exactly where he needs to be and he's not running a rank 3 or 4 Glimpse, it might be negating his pick a little bit. He's not going to be able to get the output that he intends to kind of throw somebody out of the picture. Now, we did actually see the Warlock Golem drop solo onto Ifrit, was something I kind of didn't expect here, but he's sitting kind of peachy. He does get hit by those Fatal Bonds and will do a lot of damage, but I don't think it's enough to actually finish him off.
I don't think it's enough. Close, but not quite.
So he walks away to safety, and there's no global abilities that will kind of end that thought prematurely, and he's just going to be able to fill up on bottle. And although there is some damage coming into the tier 1 from that golem, it's going to be able to tank it up pretty soon as well. Only having 10 seconds left on it, might as well. But it's going to be Storm to be able to counter-initiate, and Cardia actually just TPs up top, but he doesn't have that golem. He is going to waste a little bit of Ifrit's mana, but up top is a big action. There is Shadow Demon dropping down, and there is also big Magnus Ultimate coming in. Perfect timing here. And they are going to look for Rorgok, finishing him off with a Shockwave. And Masoku is the next target, but CK did buy back on in, but he doesn't have TP. He's not TPing in, he's just walking all the way back up top, while TGS finds a simple couple of right clicks onto the Keeper Light to finish him off. So that was actually extremely good for Stand. They transitioned up, and even without a chaotic offering, and I don't even think the Warlock was prevalent in that, they were still able to accomplish a lot. But we see Hasted Rune Ifrit coming in onto TGS. He has Rage, he has Empower, he needs to use Infest. No time. Well, he was disabled for the entire Electric Vortex, so it's pretty much...
I mean, when he saw Storm Ball
prior to it, Just not a good reaction.
It's only level 1 Rage, though, so it's only a low amount of time. That's why he didn't pop it. He was waiting, and then he waited just a split second too long. I mean, honestly, they traded a tier 1 tower for the right to kill CK, which is good, but they really didn't want to lose Lifestealer on the back half of that. That sort of negates the advantage you got from that. To be fair, CK did buy back, and to be doubly fair, CK has a Vitality booster as his first item, which is certainly an item that exists. Staff of Wizardry.
Yeah.
Owie 2000
I don't think
CK?
8 was CK. Oh my gosh. Anyways, we do see a nice defensive disruption on the stunned out Lifestealer, but it doesn't seem to be enough. He's just taking tons of damage, and though he is bringing big damage to Rorgok, gets the Infest off. TGS on the run, has that Stout Shield taken away, juking on in the trees, looking to TP out, but Masoka, he gets the Illuminate on the back end, as well, cleaning up the Disruptor with that Illuminate, with the Reality Rift, pulling him back on in, finishing that off really quickly, and more kills on the board for CK, but what's he putting it towards is the question.
It's an Owie 2000 CK, no question about it. I don't know, where's the Rage, man? He could have lived from that Coddle Blast, and he could have lived from the Storm Spirit Electric Vortex. He's trying to conserve it because it's level 1, but I mean,
It's because you're ranking the open wounds and feast, which just seems to be a bit of a mistake. When you're going in a fight after fight after fight, and you have the ability to get a 15-second cooldown, 6-second duration BKB, and attack speed boost for free, and you instead opt for a shorter cooldown slow because you want to play aggressively, they're going to make you pay for it. They're going to punish you, especially with these long duration CK stuns, which, although they're predictable, have been on point for the most part. And he's pretty much just relying on the Shadow Demon alone, not Excuse, doing a really good job to help him out, but he can only do so much.
I agree that the second point in open wounds is really questionable. And more ranks of rage, it's more psychological than anything. If you know that thing lasts 1 extra second, you feel better popping it earlier. You're not like, oh no, it's only 3 seconds, so I need to pop it at the exact right time. Trouble for Magnus, although an excellent skewer, I must say. I'm really happy about this Magnus play. I think they've played this Magnus to the hilt, and the question is, will
up top,
anything
we
else
see
work?
Rage going on through, but he is able to just barely get on through that kinetic field, glimpsing back on in. They try to do some damage to Rorgok, but not before Stop the Tears. Picks up the kill on the Shadow Demon and Taylor Swift with a 4-second stun. RD putting up the reverse polarity. Just need a couple right clicks to finish off Stop the Tears, but the overcharge allowing him to stay on in. Now Reality Rifting back RD. He does have that Infest. Negs has to come on out and try to fight it out, but instead the Spirits, the Guardian with Spirits.
The Infest. I think the Infest didn't deal damage to the CK on the way out. And this is that, by the way, this is that support level disadvantage coming into play. The Wisp is hitting the supports of Stand with a level 4 Spirits, which, keep in mind, does 600 freaking damage. They do get a pick off on Keeper the Light, by the way, sorry. But, I mean, they spend Chaotic Offering for that.
Yeah, oh yeah, popping off the golem. I mean, that's just a huge waste. We're going to see him pay for it here. Nice defensive disruption yet again, but I think the CK could really, really capitalize on this despite what's been going on here. I mean, this is a level 4 Shadow Demon. He shouldn't be running when he's level 9. He can jump on in despite the golem, but he is playing a little bit cautiously here with the 4 individuals that have transitioned up towards his lane. But one other thing to comment on is the tier 2 having dropped by the Broodmother. Every second you're not in that lane, she's going to be putting pressure out, and that's a really, really good 4 distract from 1 kind of a thing. Exactly. And you really have to make a choice between your long-term map control or your actual lane where you want to get the kills in. And right now they're making the trade for the kills up top, but now Broodmother has full control of the enemy jungle, 2 towers under her belt, and she's going to have that Orchid in no time at all.
It's certainly a great play from Isurus, making all the heroes of Stand really concentrate on what's happening in this top lane, while also generating space for the Broodmother. But I just wanted to note, Shadow Demon, 606 HP at level 4. Wisp, pre-damage mitigation to be fair, but 600 minus, times 75% damage on her spirits. So that's a Shadow Demon that's going to be taken down about 80% of his health just from the Wisp alone if she actually lands her spirits properly, which she has been. And so as a consequence, in these sustained engagements, most of the heroes of Stand just simply have to back off incredibly quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That could be a really, really big factor into it because of like you've been saying that whole time. And yeah, the level disadvantage is just kind of creeping up on them, and they're going to have to really, really do something about it. As Shadow Demon with 1 point in Shadow Poison, 2 points in Soul Catcher can't really do too much. And now we do see the continuing pressure of Shoko down in that bottom lane, and yeah, that is going to be a very, very hard thing to deal with. But the Atos is up on the CK for what it's worth. I'm not sure exactly how that'll play into it. I was thinking something more like if you want to go for something high utility that slows, go for a Diffusal Blade. You can kill the Warlock Golem, propagates to your illusions.
That's an excellent point. The Diffusal Blade is a very future-forward thought, because, yeah, exactly, you can take down the Chaotic Offering extremely quickly. If you get a fast Diffusal Blade, I mean, it doesn't cost that much more than a Rod of Atos, frankly. Take down that Warlock Golem immediately, don't have to worry about the Flaming Fists until he gets Ags. Pick off on Warlock, by the way, and I think maybe Disruptor as well.
He's looking for it, but the Glimpse comes out, and so he's going to be able to pull right on back. But Ifrit's just jumping on around. He finds 2 there. He can't be locked down, so he just keeps on playing around with them, and can pretty much make sure that not only can they not escape, but they can't dish out the damage to keep him pinned down.
A little bit of a miscommunication there, too. Magnus had intended to skewer RP the Storm Spirit, and the Glimpse saved the Storm Spirit from that.
Technically, yeah, but I don't think he actually did the RP, so
he didn't.
Not
he
too much
didn't waste it, but Storm Spirit did live.
Yeah, exactly. And that's unfortunate, based on the fact that he was such low mana. That could have been a good retaliation kill with a lot of experience at stake. A level 11 kill is pretty much exactly what Magnus needs to stay in the game. Getting a higher level of RP as soon as possible would be instrumental here. But it looks like the tier 1's going to drop up top while Brood pressure's on bottom. And we do see Ifrit still under control. They actually do the relocate down onto Magnus, looking for a kill. They have an Atos, and they're going to be able to pull him back in. Reality Rift and stun down out. So that is going to take him on down, and now we do see big offering coming through. Rorgok immediately right-clicked out, no relocate back, and now they have to commit to this position, and they don't want this. The Magnus going to come on in. He does not have rank 3 skewer for a while, and so they're just going to clean things up, but it could have been really, really nice if they were able to make something happen with that Magnus.
I liked the idea with the chaotic offering. I even liked the idea a little bit of the Magnus buyback, but the lack of skewer meant that he couldn't actually chase down the CK. So the CK takes, I guess what we could call the poor man's relocate, which is just manually TPing yourself back.
Exactly. Interesting action from Masoku, though, already having a Ghost Step drop. 15 minutes in, and he's dueling it out with the Nyx because he doesn't have to be concerned whatsoever about what he's got in store. Oh, the RP missing.
Huge miss on that RP.
The fact is, Broodmother's rank 4 webs give her immense movement speed, 35% on top of her high treads already, 472. Even with a rank 3 skewer, you cannot stay on top of her. And instead, he's going to be able to not only avoid that and waste your cooldown, but now try to counter-initiate while you don't have a disables. The Chaotic Offering and the RP both down for 100 seconds, both gigantic cooldowns, and here comes the CK. Does get glimpsed back for the moment, but that stun will keep the Warlock in place. Here comes Shoko with that big damage output, trying to burst him down, but Ifrit and, oh my gosh, they're just all dropping. All the supports cannot hold against this. And it's just ridiculous, the output. All 3 of them. It's just, and the cooldowns. No cooldowns available. They had Glimpse, and that's it. They used the Defensive Disruption on the 4-second Chaos Bolt. That's a 25-second cooldown. Glimpse is a 40-second cooldown. Their ultimates are all down, or at least the ones that are available, because half the guys aren't level 6. And so they really literally had 0 cooldowns available. They couldn't do anything about that engagement, and the movement speed advantage goes to the Tether, to the high base movement speed of the CK, and the Storm Spirit, of course, with the Ball Lightning. So it's just, they cannot run, they cannot hide, and without any cooldowns, they cannot fight.
An incredibly fateful mistake for Magnus, and you have to feel bad for him, because honestly, of the 5 players on this team, up until the point at which he flubbed that RP, Magnus was performing by far the strongest. He did the best in his lane against a pretty unfavorable lane. He set up good team fights. The few good team fights that Stand have had have been on the back of RPs. And just that one mistake means that his team is probably yelling at him. Unfairly, in my opinion.
I'm going to turn this around. It looks like Masoku is actually going to be able to survive on through this, and instead they go in with the Storm Spirit. Tons of damage coming across with that DD, trying to TP out. No luck whatsoever. Triple kill for Ifrit. Godlike spree. Now turning things around. Masoku is actually able to get on out, and instead Cardi is going to drop. TGS is next. Is it going to be a Rampage? Storm Spirit is going for it, but the Infest will delay it for a while. They can't deny this out. He's literally denying the Rampage by sitting in the
still relocate creeps? No, right? They fixed it?
No, as far as if you relocate creeps into base, I know they bounce right back to where they were, but I have no idea about if you're pulling it back into your own.
Right. I just meant that they could have tried relocating the Lifestealer creep. But anyway, they managed to pick off Lifestealer. So not a Rampage just because of the time delay, but a Rampage in spirit. And I think Lifestealer just wrote out GG on the minimap, which I don't know if that counts as an official GG.
Oh, here and there. Anyways, jumping on in mid, there's Taylor Swift getting locked down pretty hardcore. RD gets Orchided, no RP, and he gets locked down. Ardia has the golem up, just puts down some bonds, and it will hit on everybody here, but canceling out of Ifrit's TP, he'll just ball away and say screw you and just walk out.
I think that was just a sort of desperation, like, you might as well maybe get a kill, Chaotic Offering, but it doesn't even get that, honestly. I don't see a way for Stand back to the game at this stage. I mean, it's it was already tough for them, and then just that series of deaths, that Storm Spirit getting them to a 9-0 streak just means, I think, that they're pretty much out of this. 2 Orchids that they're facing up against. This is a team of casters. I mean, even Magnus, sure he's a melee, sure he's a strength, but fundamentally Magnus is a caster. And so 2 Orchids against that is incredibly effective.
Yeah.
Also, shoutouts to... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Shoutouts to Keeper of the Light, Ghost Scepter Rush. Correctly anticipating that the only possible danger he could ever face was the Lifestealer, and just getting that incredibly fast Ghost Scepter to deal with it.
I have to say, if the Disruptor had actually gotten some static storms down, they could have actually had a very powerful team fight. But the fact that he has only recently hit level 6 has completely just stopped that track, that thought 100% in his tracks. And I gotta say, it comes down to laning. We talked about how if they cannot get kills up on the well, they just keep going. There's not even much point in calling.
Don't worry about it. I think you can just talk at this point.
Yeah, but the aspect that they put all 3 individuals up on the top lane, they they didn't go get kills, and that's what you have to do to make it worth it. They could not pull neutrals, they could not farm jungle. They instead just sat there and looked for experience, looked for kills, and didn't find them. They got a kill here and there, but it wasn't really that instrumental. Even the one that they got on the CK, he bought back in, and he was right back to farming for what it's worth. And the issue there was that they put those 3 up top. They didn't get their powerful experience, so they didn't have their team fight. The Disruptor, I don't know. If they had gone for Disruptor and early Glimpse, and maybe even Kinetic Field on Sentry Wards, they could have locked down that Brood pretty hardcore, even without the Magnus. I feel the Magnus didn't lose his lane, that wasn't the problem, but the top tri-lane was not whatsoever suited to go up against a Wisp CK Coddle. It just was 100% unfavorable. Their item build wasn't right for it, the Disruptor pick wasn't right for it, and they couldn't win those kinds of early exchanges, and from there, they didn't even find their ultimates. No Demonic Purge, no Static Field, and it's just, or Static Storm.
Fatal Bonds kill all the Keeper of the Light there. If Keeper Light has a Ghost Scepter, just put Fatal Bonds on him, dummy, for your help. Yeah, I agree with you conditionally. I would have to say that, in my opinion, I think it's less of a laning situation and more of a draft situation. I think the Broodmother pick from Isurus was actually incredibly inspired. From the point at which the Broodmother was picked onwards, I would actually say that in Stan's position, not that I know anything about Dota, but I probably would have done the same thing as far as lanes. I feel like the Magnus one-on-one against the Broodmother was actually a pretty good choice, and he got good farm, he managed to contribute. Where I think the mistakes were made is, A, they were sort of blindsided by that Broodmother pick. It was very, very effective, and there really wasn't a very favorable situation they could have pulled off against it. From the point at which the Broodmother came in on, they were already on the back foot. And then the second thing is, I think they weren't sure what they wanted out of that tri-lane. I mean, you commented very astutely, I think, on the Quelling Blade Stout Shield start for the Lifestealer, which, that's either a safe lane or a jungle Lifestealer build. That is not an aggressive tri-lane we're going to get kills build.
100%, and yeah, they obviously weren't very prepared for it there, but I feel that the fact that the supports didn't have any way of canceling the skewer, I believe Electric Vortex will cancel it out, but unless the Reality Rift hits at the perfect time, that skewer is going to be an escape mechanism that Magnus can use. He won't be telekinesis out or disruption out, and I think it could have been something that could have been somewhat more reliable. Obviously, it's kind of a moot point now. It's just I understand that they definitely wanted the Magnus to match up against that Brood. It worked out nicely, but unless they brought themselves more prepared with the mindset for Lifestealer to battle it out 3v3, like skill for Rage, go for stats, so on and so forth, maybe even a Magic Stick would have been very good. And instead, they just, got dropped down really hardcore, and that's pretty much all is history at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we more or less agree that the question is more of what Stan's grand strategy was. And somewhere along that line, whether it be laning or picking or their just general approach to the lanes once they were there, they fell down, and as a result, Isurus were able to take control of the game. So I think on that we agree. It's just sort of where did the strategic fall down occur is where we have a slight difference of opinion.
But either way, it's definitely good on Isurus to draft up something chaotic, something that threw them and forced them to change up how they were playing it.
Yes.
And from there, there's really not too much more to say about it. I mean, this experience graph is one of the saddest things I've seen. 30,000 advantage, 23
horrifying.
Minutes in.
At 23 minutes, 30,000 experience.
Yeah. That's just, I mean, they started out like 16 minutes in, they had a 10k experience advantage. Keep in mind that going from level 1 to level 2 is 200 experience, level 2 to level 3 is 300, so on and so forth. 10k is insane, and 30k, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we see that here. We see the hero levels stacked up completely unfavorably to the point that Stormspear is level 19, taking on a level 7 Disruptor. That's a 12 hero level advantage if anybody's counting.
Pretty predictable results when you put up a level 19 Storm Spirit against a level 7 Disruptor, yes. And as a consequence, one is 18-0 and one is 0-11, and we'll let y'all figure out which one is which. The only other thing is, I have to say, the more we watch them, the more I'm gaining respect for Isurus as drafters, because each time I start to get nervous. I mean, looking at extra time, I feel like is almost the casters like I Ching, like trying to read unimportant messages and like very, very trivial things, like, oh my god, they're wasting their reserve time, it means they have no idea. I used to get really annoyed when casters did that when I was still just a spectator, and now that I'm a caster, I do it all the time. I'm like, oh my god, they're wasting their reserve time. But in both cases that we've watched them today, Isurus use up all their reserve time, and they still, I feel, outdraft their opponents. Like, they just have incredibly clever, especially for their late picks, they just always know what the right 5th pick is.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they're kind of on their sleeve as far as that goes. They're just kind of able to work around it and kind of just it's a little bit of a gut instinct, I think, as to what will work for them. They've practiced a couple lineups here and there, but I don't know if there's some mind games involved in it where like, oh, we're not sure about what we're picking, and then like pick the best possible lineup to counteract.
No, we know.
I don't know. Anyways. But either way,
it is mind games, sure.
I think I've learned a couple things about Dota today. That the Atos Chaos Knight is totally viable, and the Aghanim Scepter Blink Luna, totally new meta. So
Atos Chaos Knight is real. Owie 2000 will be happy. You should tell him about this game. I don't think even he does Atos Chaos Knight. I think Isurus have one up to Owie 2000 with his choice.
Nice.
But
well,
really,
that's
like the Broodmother pick. Just comparing this game, 5th picks. Broodmother, which was the perfect pick, forced Stan to run non-conventional lanes that it didn't work out, versus Warlock, which was kind of weak against what they already had on the field.
Yeah, I gotta say that specifically. The Fatal Bonds doesn't synergize or counteract the Broodmother that came into play very effectively at all, and they reacted, and they were still kind of in their previous mindset, I believe, of we have to just pick up a solo mid, something that'll help us team fight alongside the Magnus, and they did that perfectly, but the problem is they didn't get the opportunity to set things up in the first place. They didn't get Chaotic Offering into reverse polarity, kinetic statics, and then just let the empowered Lifestealer just DPS them all down. They didn't get anything like that. It was just pretty much they lost it in the lanes, and they were focused too much on the mid game for Stan to be able to hold against Isurus Gaming in this specific incident. So this was a best of one. This was the round 4 of the Netolic Raidcall Dota 2 Weekly Open. So specifically Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be looking at round 5. I'm probably going to check out what Isurus has in store for us because they've just played some interesting Dota. It's not been very orthodox. It's not been the perfect Dota, but it is very, very fun to cast, and I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do so with you, Vikerman.
You too, Blaze, absolutely. And so, so we move on to the semi-final on Friday, right?
Double checking. Let's see. That would be correct. Because
what do you think of Isurus' chances to defend their title?
It really, they've taken out a lot of really, really rough teams comparatively. Like, the battle they've gotten to this point, actually, comparatively speaking, they've taken down a Netolic SA in the first game that we casted today. And as far as what's left in the pool, I'm curious that Ice Gaming still hasn't finished off against their match between Dota Latino 2, but I know they at least got to the round of 8.
They were in the round of 8, yeah.
Okay, so either way, I think that Isurus, obviously they were promising enough to make it so far last time around. I think they have really good chances moving on forward. As long as they keep things off the wall and unorthodox, I'm happy to see them here.
I definitely agree. All right, so I guess that'll wrap it up for tonight, right? That's the last round we have.
That's exactly it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate all the viewers that were able to jump in on this game, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. But honored to cast for you guys, and we'll catch you guys on Friday.
Yeah, thanks, Blaze. Have a good one.